Hi, my friends. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Lorna Schumann with the Illinois State Museum, and today we're at the museum in Springfield. In fact, we're standing in the Changes exhibit. That's the section of the museum that talks about how Illinois has changed over a really long period of time, about 500 million years. I can't even imagine how much that is, but it's really, really old. The part of the exhibit that we're in today, though, is more close to our time. It's about the different types of places that you can find in Illinois out in nature. And the one place we're going is right behind me. It's the cave. We're gonna go in there and we're gonna learn a little bit about some special animals, bats. And you know what? We're gonna be joined by a special friend. So if you guys are ready, let's go. Well, my friends, we are here inside the cave. Now, this is not a real cave. We actually made it to look like some of the caves that you'll find here in Illinois. And Illinois actually has quite a few caves. In fact, we have over 100 that we've actually explored. Those are ones we've actually been in and measured. So that's really, really kind of cool. There's many different kinds of animals that live in caves, and some of them are used to being in total darkness. Now, the one we're going to talk about today is the bat. And in fact, my friends, I have a special friend, but we've got to wake him up because you know what? It's day outside and he's sleeping. So let's go get Benny the bat. Hey, Benny. Benny. Hey, Benny. You want to come? Come on, Benny. So my friends, I want to introduce you to Benny the bat. He is my friend, and you know what? Benny is a poet. And guess what type of poems he likes to write? Poems about bats. So let me reach down and grab his poems that he had me write down so I can read them. Because you know what? His poems tell us a little bit about bats. So here's the first one. Think really hard. What is something you think Benny is trying to tell you about bats? A baby bat woke up in fright. Turn on the dark. I'm afraid of the light. So my friends, what do you think Benny is trying to tell us about bats? What's that? You're right. Benny and other bats, they don't like to be out in the daylight because that's when they sleep. And in fact, they're awake when we're asleep at night, and they like the night. Now, is that kind of silly? How many of you are kind of scared of the dark? So maybe you can get that bats might be scared of the light because that's when they sleep. Well, you ready for the next one? It's much longer. Listen carefully. You won't see me during the day. I much prefer the nighttime for catching insects, big and small. The evening is the right time. My voice and ears are very sharp. They guide me in the darkness. Some people, they're afraid of me, but really, I'm harmless. So what do you think Benny's trying to tell us about this time? That's right, he's telling you more about that he likes to be active at night and fly around. But he also said what? He was trying to catch and eat what? That's right, insects. In fact, most of Illinois' bats, they eat insects. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so they like to get them all the time. And then he said his voice and ears are very sharp. Huh, what do you think that means? Well, you guessed it. He uses his voice and his ears to help him find what he's going to eat. That's good. And you know what else he said? Sometimes people are really afraid of him, but they shouldn't be. And that's really what one thing is. A lot of people think really sad things about bats, that they can hurt them. But that isn't true. They're really very gentle and harmless creatures. That means they won't hurt you. But does that mean we should go and touch and play with them? No, my friends, because they're wild animals. Well, you know what? We woke Benny up in the middle of his long night's sleep. And so, you know what? Let's put him back to bed. Can you guys say goodbye, Benny? Bye, Benny. It's time for you to go back to sleep. Go back and roost, my friend. Good job. Well, my friends, you were really helpful with Benny. Now, remember when he said that thing about their voice? Well, that type of voice they used to hunt, we can't hear. But do you want to hear what their voices sound like? Ready? Listen carefully. Sounds like a musical beat, doesn't it? Yep, well, that's what bats would sound like. That actually is a little brown bat, which is one of the bats that we have here. Well, my friends, we learned a lot from Benny, but you know what? People have things that they think about bats that are wrong. So we're gonna play a game, and I'm gonna need your help. This is called the right or the wrong answer. Okay, so you guys, this is how we're gonna play. First off, get your thumbs ready, warm them up. So exercise those little thumbs real quick. All right, good job. Now this is what we're gonna say. When you think I say something that's right, or correct, or true, put your thumbs up, my friends. But if the statement I'm saying about bats is not true, put your thumbs down. And you know what? It's always okay to say, I don't know, or maybe, maybe not. So remember, it's true or right, it's wrong or false, or maybe, or I just don't know. So you guys ready? Okay, so here is my first one. Bats are blind. What do you think, my friends? True, false, or I don't know? Oh, good. Everybody who got their thumb down to say bats are not blind, give yourself a pat on the back, my friends, because you're correct. Bats are not blind. In fact, they can see things really well. They can see stuff in the dark. And that's pretty cool. But you know what else they do? They have a special type of thing that Benny told us about. Remember, he said they use their voice and their ears to help them find the insects at night. That's called echolocation. Now, how many of you have ever gone, echo, echo? Ooh, we can almost get it here in the cave, but not quite. That's where you sound your voice out and your voice comes back to you because your sound waves of your voice hit a wall or something and they bounce back at you. Well, guess what? That's what Benny's doing and all the other bats. They send out a little clicking noise that goes out. We can't hear it, but they can. And when it hits an object, it bounces back and tells them exactly where that object is. And most of the time, it's an insect. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so you ready for the next one? Are your thumbs ready? Make sure they're ready. All right, my friends, the next one says, bats get caught in your hair. What do you think? Correct? Not correct? Or I don't know. Everyone who has their thumbs down, you're correct. Give yourself a pat on the back. That's right. Bats don't like to be around us. They can't get caught in our hair. It would be very, very rare if they did. But what they do like is they're very shy and they're very, very quiet. And they don't like to be around us noisy, loud people at all. In fact, they like to live in quiet, dark places. And if people go into the places where they live and make lots of noise and ruckus, that means lots of sound, they'll actually leave. Now our bats in Illinois, they live in places like caves, like this. They live in mines, which are holes that we've dug into the ground to pull out something out of the ground we need. And they're really deep holes. Bridges, tunnels, but only where it's quiet, not where all the traffic is. And also in trees. I bet you didn't realize that. And sometimes they live in our attics, especially if it's really quiet, because they want to get away, but not always. All right, my friends, you ready for the next one? Let's see what our next one is. Ready? Here we go. Bats are dirty and can carry many diseases or sickness, like rabies. That's a type of disease, my friends. Well, guess what? Bats are not dirty. Do you know why? People always thought about that, but do you know what they see bats doing? It's pretty cool. You ready? They're like cats. When they put cameras on bats in their bat caves, what they found is they were licking themselves like cats, and then they lick themselves and smooth back their fur and all of that. And then, you know what they do? They go over and lick their friends and clean their friends. That's what bats do. They clean themselves, so they aren't dirty at all. Now, what about that disease part? Well, my friends, here's what happens with the disease. Some animals do get sick. Even bats do. But you know what? Most of the time they aren't. And here's the thing. If you ever see a wild animal or a bat laying on the ground and it lets you approach it, don't go near it. That's not a good sign. That usually means the animal might be sick, and it's better to go get an adult. All right, good job. You guys ready for the next one? All right, here's my next one. This one always confuses people. Bats are flying mice. Okay, did your thumbs fall apart? Did they fall asleep? Wake them up. What's your answer? Are they flying mice? Are they not flying mice? Or I just don't know. All right, everybody got their answer? If your thumbs are down, my friends, you're right. They're not flying mice. First off, mice run around on the ground. Bats fly. But here's the other thing. They're very different. Mice can have lots of babies at many different times over the year. They can have up to 20 babies at one time and multiple times. But bats, they'll only have 1 to 2 babies a year. Those babies are called pups, just like our dogs. But you know what? That makes them more like us than like mice, huh? All right, good job. You ready for the next one? Let's see what it is. Here's my next one. Some bats can eat 600 mosquitoes in an hour. Okay, get those thumbs. Is it true? Is it false? Is it, I don't know. What do you guys think? Think, think, think. Everyone who's got their thumbs up, give yourself a pat on the back, my friends, because you got it. They can eat 600 mosquitoes. Now I have to ask you, how many of you like mosquitoes? I don't, especially when they're biting me. And bats are our friends because they eat the bugs that get in our face. Can you imagine what it'd be like if we didn't have bats? let me show you how much. 600 mosquitoes are like. This jar is actually filled with little plastic spiders. They're not real. But look at that. Right there, I've got 3. And this has got 600 in there. That's a lot, don't you think? So bats are really our friends. They help us keep all the bugs down. All right, did those thumbs fall apart and fall asleep? Wake them up. Okay, you ready for the next one? Okay, and this one is our last one. Now this last word I may have to explain. Bats are the only flying mammals. Mammals is a big word. It basically means an animal that has fur or hair and has live babies and gives their babies milk. So now here's the question. Get those thumbs warmed up. Are bats the only flying mammals? Because bats are mammals, my friend. So are they the only ones? Are they not the only ones? Or you just don't know. Everybody think about it. Ready? Everybody, if you got your thumbs up, give yourself a pat on the back because they are the only flying mammals. Now wait a second. How many of you thought about birds? Birds are not mammals, my friends. They have feathers and they lay eggs. So they're not mammals. They're birds. Bats are different. Well, good job, my friends. You're learning so much. Now I have something to show you. You guys ready? Look at this. This is a bat skeleton. This is what's underneath all the fur and the muscles and everything else. It's just the bones. Now what's cool is we can look at this and we can see a bat. Do you guys see this right here, the wings coming out to the side? Guess what? The wings are like our hands. Isn't that cool? Oh, I can see some doubters in there. You're going, really? Yep. So here's what I want you to do. Put your hand up like this, just like the bat's hand. So your fingers are hanging down and your thumb is up in the air. Well, you see this little piece right here that sticks up? That's the bat's thumb. And right below it, the big joint, that big ball right underneath the thumb, that is its wrist. Can you find your wrist? All right, wave your hand then. So the thumb, now let's look at this again. See this? That's this finger. And then the next finger is the really long one, just like your finger is your big center finger right here, your big tall finger. And then look, there's the other one right there. And the last one, the pinky, is closest to its body. That's how it moves. So here's what I want you to do, my friends. Stand up. Put your hands out to your side with your thumbs in like this and make your bat wings, just like a bat. The difference is they have skin going between their hands and their body, and it goes all the way down to their ankles. You know what you can do sometime? Not right now. Try it a little later. Go get a blanket. Ask an adult to help you and tape your blanket here and here. Put it around your back and then tape it to your ankles, and you can flap your wings just like a bat. But you can't fly. I'm sorry, we just can't fly. But that's how bats use this. And that's their hands. Their hand is their wing. That's pretty cool. Well, guess what, my friends? Anybody want to take a guess at how many bats we have in the United States? Well, I should probably say just Illinois. It's too hard to do the whole United States. In the world, we have over 1,000 different types of bats. But here in Illinois, we don't have that many. We have, how many do you guys think? If you guessed 5, I'm sorry, my friends, we're not quite there yet. If you guessed 10, that's still too little. We have 10 plus 3 is 13 bats. 13 different types of bats. Do you want to see what some of them look like? Guess what? I have a few pictures of some of them. And you know what else I brought? My ruler. My ruler will help us tell how long our bats are. Because all of our bats are between 8 inches and 16 inches. So first off, 8 inches is right there, and 16 inches is double that, so right there. And what I mean by that is it's from the wing tip, the very tip of their wing, all the way out to the other side. That's how they measure how big they are, is from wingtip to wingtip. We call that a wingspan. Okay, so you want to see what the biggest bat in Illinois looks like? And it can be 14 to 16 inches long. That's how long between my fingers. You ready? And that is the hoary bat. You guys see him? Isn't he cool? He is one of the bats that we find, and he's the largest bat. Good job, my friends. Okay, so you ready for the next one? The most common bat, that is our second biggest bat here in Illinois, is the big brown bat. And the big brown bat is 12 to 14 inches. So you see this? This is my ruler. Between my fingers is 12 inches. That's their wingspan. How many of you thought bats were much bigger? Well, in some parts of the world, they are really big. They can be out to here. But not here in Illinois. We have little bats because our bats eat insects. Okay, you want to see one of our smallest bats? This one's called the little brown bat. And he is just over 8 inches in his wing. So 8 inches is right there, my friends, between my fingers, right there. So he's not very big. He's also a common bat that we have here. And then one of the smallest bats we have is the tricolored bat, or the eastern pipistrelle. And he's pretty cool looking. He's only 8 inches too. But you know what? Bats come in many different forms. I want to show you this one, the northern long-eared bat. Look at those ears. Isn't that cool? He has really long ears like rabbit ears. Well, bats come in all sizes and shapes and colors. As you can see, we have many different kinds of ones. Here's another one, okay? And this one's also a big-eared bat that's found, but unfortunately, they're not found very well. They're what we call endangered. That means there's very few of them, and we're scared they're all going to die out. So my friends, you know what? We've seen that there's quite a bit about bats that we don't know. And I hope you learned a little bit more about bats and learned that really, bats are our friends. We need them around because you know what? Sometimes they eat the bugs, but in other parts of the world, they actually help make our food. In fact, some of them do what we call pollinate. That means they make the flower turn into a fruit, like bananas. If you like bananas, you better like bats. Well, my friends, you know what? I thank you for coming and joining me today, and I hope you learned a little bit about bats and how Have a wonderful day. Bye.